Good day! We are the students from Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng San Pablo taking up Bachelor of Science in Hospitality Management 4B, and I am Julian H. Pilares together with my group mates.
I am Leslie Nicole Dumaraos.
I'm Shire Macy Ornido.
I am Kian Kirby Flores.
And we're about to present Tourism Impacts in Culture and Society. Tourism Impact on Culture. The impact of culture on tourism addresses the developing relationship between tourism and culture, as well as how they have combined to destination more desirable and competitive. According to the recent case studies that illustrate the various aspects of the relationship between tourism, culture, and regional appeals, and the policy intervention that can be applied to improve the relationship, this publication demonstrates that how strong links between tourism and culture can be encouraged to help the places become more tourist-friendly, as well as more competitive as a places to live, visit, work, and invest. And as a tourism impacts as a revenue of our local artisan and artists, since we all know that tourism provides a financial incentive for the development of variety of local crafts and cultures. Furthermore, tourism aids the preservation, enrichment, and enhancement of our cultural heritage as well. Aside from that, we all know that tourism provides a lot of new opportunities for multicultural and multi-ethnical activities. As a relationship of tourism and culture, the convergence between tourism and culture, and the increasing interest of visitors in cultural experiences bring unique opportunities but also complex challenges for the tourism sectors. Tourism policies and activity should be conducted with respect for the artistic and archaeological and cultural heritage, which should be protected and can be passed on the future generations. Particular care should be devoted to preserving monument, worship site, archaeological and historic site, as well as upgrading museum, which must be widely open and accessible for tourism visits. What is about cultural tourism? It is the form of tourism concerned with the country or region's art and cultures. It generally focuses on traditional communities who have diverse custom, unique form of art, and distinct social practices, which basically distinguish it from other types or forms of cultures. Cultural tourism is defined by the tourist industry professionals as a travel directed towards experiencing the art, heritage, and special character of all the places. And according to the definition adopted by the UNWTO General Assembly, UNWTO provides support to its member by strengthening cultural tourism policies, frameworks, strategies, and product development. It also provides guidelines for the tourism sector in adopting policies and governance model that benefits all stakeholders while promoting and preserving cultural elements.
Negative socio-cultural impact of tourism. Standardizations. Destination re-standardization is the process of satisfying tourists' desires for familiar facilities. Tourists often look and recognizable facilities is an unfamiliar environment, like well-known fast food restaurants and hotel chains. Next is negative sociocultural impacts of tourism, irritation due to tourist behaviors. Tourists often, out of ignorance and carelessness, fail to respect local customs and moral values. When they do, they can bring about irritation and stereotyping. They take a quick snapshot and are gone. And by the acting invade the local people's lives. Next is how tourism can contribute to socio-cultural conversation. Tourism can contribute to positive developments, not just a negative impact. It has the potential to promote social development through employment creation, income redistribution, and poverty alleviation. Other potential positive impacts of tourism includes: first one is a tourism as force for peace. Strengthening communities. Facilities developed for tourism can benefit residents. Revaluation of culture and traditions. Encourages civic involvement of pride. The OECD's case studies indicate that the main drivers for developing culture and tourism policies are valorizing and preserving heritage, economic development and employment, physical and economic regeneration, strengthening or diversifying tourism, retaining population, developing cultural understanding.
So let's proceed to the impact of tourism in society. Tourism is one of the world's most important economic sectors. It brings in billions of dollars and millions of employments all around the world. It is regarded as the only tool for development and the only way to improve quality of life by developing nations. At the same time, tourism began to reveal its darker side. Investors and visitors' action have negative impact on host communities, socio-cultural values, and environmental assets all over the world. Authenticity is the desire to encounter a diverse cultural context in its natural habitat. Although cultural tourism offers chances for understanding and education, it also has negative consequences. At the local level, there are three broad effects: commodification of culture, demonstration impact, acculturation of another culture. Tourism may become more real by involving people of local community. Most people of the destination community are also the ones who are the most affected by tourism. Some academics think that by involving the community in the planning process, some of the negative effects of tourism can be avoided and the beneficial effects can be enhanced. Participation in the community benefits both the community and the tourist. Acculturation is the process of altering one's own culture by drawing from more dominant cultures. In most cases, the community acculturated in tourism is the destination community. When a community absorbs techniques produced by another group, it is known as innovation diffusion. However, cultural adoption refers to modifying an existing culture rather than adopting a new culture. Acculturation is said to contribute to the homogenization of cultural distinction and the collapse of traditional communities. Some feel that acculturation and modernization will aid traditional societies in adapting to modern life. The idea being that teaching people to adapt will save the community from future extinction. As the population grows, more social places and events for local and tourists will be created. Tourism may benefit the host community by providing the resources and incentives to maintain cultural histories. It pleases people's interest in traditional crafts, activities, songs, dance, and oral histories from the area. So now let's discuss about the tourism impacts on culture and society. Tourism provides financial incentives for the developments of various local crafts and cultures, which has an impact on local artisans and artists' income. Tourism also contributes to the preservation, retention, and enrichment of our cultural heritages. Tourism will also open up new opportunities for multi-socio-cultural activities. So here are the trends that are motivating people to travel. The 6 consumer travel trends according to the UNWTO. Travel to change or focusing on more authentic travel, transformation, and living like a local. Travel to show or capturing Instagrammable moments, experiences, and visiting selfie-worthy destinations. Pursuit of a healthy life or engaging into active travel that involves walking, wellness, and sport tourism. Rise of the access economy. Solo travel and multi-generational travel as a result of single households and aging population. Rising awareness on travel with sustainable advocacies, thoughtful consideration about climate change impacts, and plastic-free travel. Social change. Changing values. Increased crime and gambling, change in moral behavior, changes in family structure and roles, problems with the tourist-host relationship, and destruction of heritage are the negative social impacts.
I will discuss about the negative social impacts of tourism. First, social change. Social change is basically referring to changes in the way that society acts or behaves. Unfortunately, there are many changes that comes about as a result of tourism that are not desirable. There are many examples throughout the world where local population change because of tourism. Perhaps they change the way they speak or the way they dress. They have been introduced to the alcohol through the tourism industry, or they have become resentful of rich tourists and turned into crimes. These are just few examples of negative social impacts of tourism. Through alcohol, the way they dress themselves, or the way they act, or kung paano tayo makipag-communicate sa ibang tao, or yung paano yung pag-approach natin towards sa kanila. Globalization and the destruction of preservation and heritage. Globalization is the way in which the world is becoming increasingly connected. We are losing individuality and gaining a sense of global being, whereby we are more and more alike than ever before. So globalization is inevitable in the tourism industry because of the interactions between tourist and host, which typically comes from different geographic and cultural backgrounds. This is the interaction that encourage us to become more alike. Many people believe globalization is a bad thing, but there are also some positive effects of it. Sa mundo daw natin is madami ng changes kung paano tayo nagko-connect sa isa't isa. Mas na-adapt natin yung makabagong tourism kaysa dun sa dati. Dahil marami na tayong nakikilala at na nagmula sa different cultures or beliefs. Next, authenticity. Along similar lines to globalizations are the loss of authenticity that often results from tourism. Authenticity is essentially something that is original or unchanged. Ibig sabihin, original, hindi nababago. It is not fake, reproduced in any way. The Western world believe that the tourist destinations is no longer authentic when their cultural values and tradition change. So, hindi na daw sila yung mga Western daw is hindi na naniniwala na authentic yung kanilang cultural values dahil nabago na to ng traditional. But I would argue it's not natural. Culture is supposed to stay the same. It's supposed to evolve through each. Loss of authenticity is, sa generation daw natin ngayon is parang nawawala na yung pagiging original or yung mga bagay na hindi na nababago. Like example sa culture, napapalitan na siya ng makabago. Next is standardization and commercialization. Similarly, destination risk standardization is the process of satisfying our customers' desires for familiar facilities and experiences. While landscape, accommodation, food and drinks, and etc. must meet the tourist's desire for the new and unfamiliar things, that they must at the same time not to be or new to strange. Because few tourists are actually looking for completely new things, like think about the toiletries, well-known fast food restaurants, and hotel chains. Tourists like some things to be standardized. About their breakfast, about their drinks, about the language of the services, and others to be different. Standardizations. Ito yung way kung paano masatisfy yung mga customer natin based dun sa pinoprovide nating service sa kanila. Yung mga tourists kasi ngayon, ang hinahanap nila is syempre yung maganda, malinis, at may mga bagong discovery things. Next is culture clashes. On a less philosophical note, another negative social impact of tourism that can have significant consequences is culture clashes. Because tourism involves movement of people to different geographical locations, cultural clashes takes place as a result of difference in cultures, ethnic and religious groups, values, lifestyle, languages, and levels of prosperity. The attitude of local residents toward tourism development may unfold through the stages of euphoria, where visitors are very welcome, through the apathy, irritation, and potentially antagonism when anti-tourist attitudes begins to grow among local people. Next is tourist-host relationships. Culture clashes can also be exploited by the fundamental differences in culture between the host and the tourist. So there is likely to be economic inequality between locals tourists who are spending more than they usually use at home. This can cause resentment from the host towards the tourist. So particularly when they see them wearing expensive jewelries, using flash cameras, they know that they can afford themselves. Further to this, tourists often use of ignorance and carelessness to fail respect local customs and more values. Next, provision of social services. The tourism industry requires many facilities, infrastructures to meet the needs of the tourist. This often means that the many developments in an area such as result of tourism will be available for use by the locals also. Local people often gain new roads, new sewage systems, new playgrounds, bus services, etc. And as a result of tourism, this can provide a great boost to their quality of life, and it's a great example of a positive social impact of tourism. So, yung mga bagong infrastructure na natatayo sa isang community is mas nakakatulong sa isang locals na nakatira doon. Dahil magkakaroon sila ng mga bagong infrastructures na magagamit nila sa pang-araw-araw o sa kanilang iba pang hanap buhay. Next, commercialization of culture and art. Tourism can see rise to many commercial businesses, which can be positive social impact of tourism. This helps to enhance the community spirit as people tend to have more disposable income as a result. This new business may also promote local cultures and arts. Museums, shows, and galleries are a fantastic way to showcase the local customs and traditions of destinations. This can help to preserve local traditions. Yung mga museums daw and cultural arts is mas nakakatulong sa atin para mas ma-promote natin yung ating local traditions, yung local images na napreserve ng iba't ibang local communities like galleries. Next, revitalization of cultural and art. Revitalization is unique cultures are regain a sense of identity, such as through promoting heritage, languages, or revising traditions and customs. In other words, it's the bringing back of a group or a way life that has been lost or dying. Revitalization, dito daw yung mas pinapabalik yung nawala or nabago. Mas pinopromote yung makaluma like heritage, languages na nawala, or yung iba't ibang traditions and customs.